information thanks to a viewer who provided me the key evidence. This will tie Alice Guo's father, Angelito Guo, to a CCP-linked Chinese association. Meanwhile, as the recent Senate hearing has revealed, Alice Guo's ties to China is much more apparent than ever before. So we'll be tackling all the mysteries around her so far. Alright, it seems like my analysis of Alice Guo has been spot on. My conclusion is that Alice Guo is a front of a large-scale scam and money laundering operation that got busted, and she made her way into the mayor's office hoping to expand that operation behind the scenes, but was caught. And now she has to make up lies on the way. Her connection to the CCP is not to be undermined, as I'll be revealing the evidence suggesting the situation so far. Now, no amount of argument over her ties and nationality can undermine that the real issue here is the criminal group activities that was doing things like human trafficking, detentions, hacking, among other things, and Alice Guo is a part of that. She was revealed at a recent hearing to be a business partner also of the main suspects in the biggest scam and billion-dollar money laundering case in Singapore, which we'll talk about in the second half. First, let's reveal some critical information about the Guo family name. To start with her father, we have to backtrack to her family name first, so here's the context. The Guo is a large family name that comes from southern China in a town called Jinjin, and practically that's near the Taiwan Strait in the province of Fujian. Here is the family of the Chao-Tai Guo. In fact, according to Chinese Wikipedia, the Guo family name traces all the way back to 700 BC, and the Guo family spans across Southeast Asia, so it's very reasonable that there is a Guo family name in the Philippines as well. Now, a viewer sent me an email today with these photos. Now, the words that I've circled here mean Chao-Tai, which is precisely that village where the Guo family's name originates from. And so I looked into some of these associations that sent a congratulatory message to Alice Guo for becoming mayor. This one here reads Family Pride, and it's from the Hong Kong Chao-Tai Guo Clan Association, and another one from the Hong Kong Chao-Tai Association, and the third from Philippine Chao-Tai Association. Notice how they all differ by the name slightly, but they all signal that these associations belong to the larger Guo family and the extended families, and they span across the overseas reach, as well as they all are linked together based on the family name. So I began digging. Here's the first piece of information that I found. In 2018, Alice Guo's father was an honorary advisor for the Philippines Chao-Tai Association. In this article, there are multiple Guo last name individuals serving in this particular association. So that at least proves that Alice Guo's father is at least in 2018 still in the Philippines and actively participating with the local Chinese community. Now, it was revealed by the Senate that Guo's father would travel back to China frequently, in fact sometimes more than 3 trips per month, but after some more digging, it seems like this is more suspicious than actually just the travel itself, because this article came up. This is an event celebrating the new leadership of another association, but tied to the same Guo family, and this was attended by, here's the most important part, Zhu Feng, who is the Deputy Director of the Coordination Department of the CCP Liaison Office, which, by the way, is a top spy agency of the Chinese Communist Party. The next one is the Fujian United Association's Deputy Chair, Chen Songcong. And another one is the Fujian Chinese Association Chair Emeritus, and this one is the Fujian Association, of course, we often associate with the Chinese police station. These associations, they all have ties to United Front, which is a very massive network of overseas Chinese associations that speak and do the biddings of the CCP. The next is the chairman of the Hong Kong Chao-Tai Association, and then the Chao-Tai Guo Clan Association chair as well. And here comes more ties to the CCP, which is, again, that United Front Department aspect of the Fujian province. They send their director, as well as the Chao-Tai Village Communist Party boss also came. So it just proves to you that the Guo family and their tied associations in the Philippines are very closely linked to Chinese Communist Party organizations. Other members from the Alice Guo's Father's Association also came to this event. So I can say at this point without any doubt that the Guo family has heavy ties to the CCP through their United Front operations. And the United Front operation is a massive overseas network. It campaigns on the idea that the Chinese Communist Party will have overseas reach in every single country, in every single Chinese community, to basically control most of what the community thinks about the CCP. and it seeks to co-opt these associations in different countries to do the work for them in different ways, benign ways, ways that you don't really see on the surface, such as even including donating to politicians, putting people into power, etc., etc. Now, Fujian, as I mentioned, is a province. It's a hotbed for the CCP because they've been able to be captured overseas through incentives. Now remember, there was the CCP police station in New York City. That was from one of the Fujian-based associations in New York. And so this may partially explain why Alice Guo is decked out in the designer clothes and the luxury items that she holds, because these associations often come with economic incentives, and because they do the work for the CCP, and they gain a lot of benefits from it. But that's just part of that. Now, I think Alice Guo is involved in something bigger, money laundering on a massive scale. Now, according to Senator Sherwin Gatchalian, which I hope I pronounced that right, he talked about the same issue I was talking about with money laundering. Gatchalian says, Financial Records talked about the same issue I was talking about with money laundering. Gatchalian says, financial records of Baofulan, which was the big compound that Alice Guo helped them to get, which later became that scam network. When they were first busted, the Bam Bam scam network, we started to learn more about the ties to Alice Guo. But according to the recent Senate hearing, we hear that they were only operating on a capital of about 1.2 million pesos, or about 20,000 US dollars. And a third-party estimate puts it at about 100,000 US dollars for operating expenses. Now, given the scale and the size, it doesn't seem to fit. And then the senator also cast doubt on the source of income of Guo's father, whom the mayor said frequently would give her cash amounting to something like plus or minus 20,000 US dollars, depending on the amount, of course, as capital for her business. And so according to SEC records, it showed that her family's pig farm, which was supposedly the origin of where she gets her income and wealth, had absorbed a $900,000 peso loss in 2021. And it made about 81,000 net profit in 2022. So it was not making a lot of money. And this, as her father's embroidery business made about 440,000 profit in 2022 and about 720,000 in 2023. So there's a lot of business out there. Some of them are making money, some of them are losing money. But I really don't think these businesses, making money is their number one priority. Of course, these are all numbers in the Philippines currency, which is the pesos. So they're nothing major in the grand scale of if you convert it to, say, the US dollars. But the problem here is that I think they're using business, investments, in any way, shape, or form to sort of divert attention away from what they were doing, which is, I believe, part of that is the money laundering aspect. So was Alice Guo's father doing the money laundering part for her? It might not be so simple. I think there's multiple avenues in which things are being done. But the bigger question for me is, who is he doing it for? Which obviously I don't have the answer to. But let's first talk about the new revelation from Senator Hontiveros, which is about Alice Guo being tied to the Singaporean scam and money laundering scheme. And this really, I'll tell you the conclusion later, but this is a much bigger story now than it was last week. And this happened to be the biggest money laundering scheme in Singapore's history, racking up to a total for about 2.2 billion US dollars, with 10 Chinese nationals charged for related crimes activities. Now, it just happens that the compound development, this called Baofulan development, is where Alice Guo is involved. That's also the same place in which Alice Guo's business partners, two of them are the criminals in Singapore, right? So you have the Filipino scam network compound, which is partially, involving Alice Guo, and then you have the biggest scam and money laundering situation in Singapore, and then they're connected. So Alice Guo has two business partners invested into the compound where the Philippines has found them, busted them for scam, and then those two people are the same people that are involved in the biggest Singaporean scandal of the time. You're telling me that there's no connection here and that there's no money laundering in the Filipino case? Just let that sink in, okay? Like, really sink in. For just a minute, think about this. Two people that had so much money because they were doing money laundering that they needed overseas venture, investments of some sort, to, say, the Philippines. Let's just say it's a random development zone that nobody knew was going to become a scam, criminal activity sort of foothold, stronghold, and then it just happens to be Alice Guo's sort of investment venture here in the Philippines. Now, these two people in the Singapore case, one of them is Ling Bao-in, the only woman among the 10 suspects in Singapore's largest money laundering case. And then the second person is her partner, Zhang Ruijin, and their combined asset goes up to about 240 million US dollars. And then Alice Guo comes out and claims that she didn't know the crimes of her business partners until this week. So that just adds another layer of things, right? I guess you would say another red flag to the chest full of red flags. She's like a walking red flag. So how can Alice Guo, a savvy businesswoman with 12 vehicles to her name, multiple businesses registered to her name, investments, ventures, didn't do a background check or like a trust-based sort of investigation on her friends from Singapore? And was she not an avid newsreader as a politician of the biggest case in perhaps the world at the time, or say Asia? She just didn't know about it? I think that's unbelievable, like literally impossible to believe her. Alice Guo said at the hearing that after she withdrew her investment from Baofu Land in 2022, she never contacted Ling Bao-in and Zhang Ruijin again. Okay, so here, that raises another question, all right, for me, which is that after Alice Guo became mayor in 2022, she seems to have distanced herself from these dirty sort of works, like scams, human trafficking, and money laundering that was taking place literally behind her mayor office. Think about it. If you're a mayor and a large criminal group was operating in the town and you had no idea about it, there's only two reasons. One of them is that you're incompetent and you need to resign, or the second one is that you're in on it. So from my experience, this cannot conclusively suggest that Alice Guo was no longer involved after she withdrew the investment, but because precisely that she was trying to appear like she's not part of this anymore, that she gave it away. Look, she's decked out in luxury looks, right? From accessories to cars to clothing to everything else. Like she at one point had a helicopter. It makes me think that she's even more involved than ever before, but just that her actions now being put behind the scenes, right? This happens in China all the time. These CCP officials, before they become an official, they're doing all these gang activities. Afterwards, they didn't just stop doing it, they amplified it, but now they no longer have to dirty their hands themselves. So to this day, we have not heard any answer as to how the Guo family, Alice Guo's immediate family that is, makes their appropriate shares of wealth. And what's even more strange now is that Alice Guo doesn't even want to admit to things in her family, like how she denied knowing her siblings, who she had traveled with according to documents, but claims otherwise, or that her mother is a maid, to which we may even now question the existence of the so-called Amelia Leo. Does she even exist? Because the birth registry of her mother doesn't exist, neither does her father. And then Alice has two step-siblings, Sheila and Simon, who she has traveled with, like I said earlier. And it shows that on their birth certificate, they actually have their mother, Amelia Leo, but then their parents don't have records. So, I mean, at this point, I feel like we're just, finding out about the Guo family at the same time that Alice is finding out about her family. Like, it's just some real-life drama of her discovering her entire life. Was she so distant from her family that her past is just a mystery to all of us, including herself?